Wow, guys, we can just talk about this just technology. Talk about technology, and they are making things to happen because it's a bit of changing some of the transformers here. I like how it's occurring here. Wow. They are bringing it so close so as they can just impact it at their own track here to make sure they're going to be taking it for much of rectification. Talk about a little bit of some of the problems here, a little bit here. So these are some sections here, some segments here. I think very much fantastic here. Wow. So he's operating it from here. That's the best way for it to occur here, and they're gonna be posting it or putting it to the bucket there, and everything gonna be so fantastic. It has it's just one of the works that has already commenced here to make sure that everything is rectified. Whenever we talk about its development, Gintu gonna be onto the development of making it happen. That's the best way for it to be, and they're gonna be impacted there, so as you can just get to be checked more properly from their own engineers. That is so meticulous. Gonna be put onto the track here and changing it. That's the best way for it to be handled here. This is development, we tangle and make it happen here. That is the best moment coming out from this section here. Shock. Shock miss down. So unataka kuchange?
Tunaenda nayo, kuna watu wa workshop wanakuja kesho. Hata sasa tulikuwa tunaenda kuchukua ya Nyangoge tukapata already kuna timu nyingine walishaichukua.
Sasa si mpaka next month.
Kesho wakikuja kama itakuwa kitu kidogo, ni mara hiyo hiyo.
Kenya Power.
Azikuzi azichukui long sana.
Yeah. In the operating gears.
Unajua huyu jamaa anaitwa Hawa?
Anaitwa? Hawa.
Huyu jamaa yeye amesimamia hii area yote
maneno ya recruit. Sijaventure sana na hiyo. Mimi bora kuna umeme tunaendelea na kazi. Lakini imetukatishia mbali bwana. Hapa sisi tunatumia wifi nini? Sasa hii kila kitu imeko shut down
Ilianza nini?
Mimi nilikuwa natumia vizuri. Walizima juzi on Thursday. Hello village people, and also much of the people watching from wherever you're coming from. Thank you very much for being tuned and locked in as we're going to be starting this kind of the video from the center of Nyabuhanse. It's just one of the very fantastic towns here, a little bit having some of the shenanigans and shagalabagara item sometimes. Talk about we're going to be having some of 2-3 postcoms and intercoms that do come, talk about the shootings, insecurity and much more. But that is not the intention for us to come to this kind of the characteristic moment as we're going to be starting this kind of the video. But besides me here, I'm gonna be having one of where the grassroots, because this kind of the video gonna be covering what has been there and how is everything running. This kind of an statement program of this kind of the video is to talk about what this kind of the transformer that's just behind me here, as you're gonna be discovering. This is where Marwa was just getting much of electricity from the center of Nyabuanse here. But at this kind of the point, what has happened until it has not reached at his own position? Talk about what's really popping out at this kind of the point, because much of the people are asking themselves, what is the solar for, and who is this person who brought this kind of the solar program to that kind of an Esquire? But we're going to be handling much of the 2-3 things to understand why was it cut from here, and was it in a long mileage, is it a last mileage transformer, and how is it going to be handled, and how the things going to be coming, because this is where the grassroots of the transformation came from, and this is where we're going to be starting this kind of the video from, because that is the transformer that brought much of the chaotic talk about during the party time, and much of the things how they were coming from that kind of the time, and what happened the transformer until Marwa not got such kind of the electricity. Not only Marwa, talk about the whole village, because there's so many people. It's a village and a community that has more than 100 people that they could be given talk about electricity with a last mileage to their own position, but they don't have anything like that one. And what is really there, because electricity is very close to that kind of an Esquire, but the problem is what is being the problem there. So today we're going to be starting this kind of the video from this transformer, and when we're going to be getting back to the point. So keep it tuned, as we're going to be getting to the wrong of the journey and diving into it and understanding what's popping out from this kind of the position. But we have much of the friends here, they are the borders here. Hi man, are you good man? Everything's cool? Kiki, Wagwan. Exactly, my friends here a little bit here, and we're gonna be kicking off to understand what's popping out from this kind of an Esquire. So keep it tuned, keep it locked, because this is the beginning. Let's get to the grassroots and understand, because we're gonna be diving into it, and diving we have to get some of the encouragement and also much of the transport, so as you can just walk very quickly and reach where the spot is until we get back to the villa, and that's where we are heading to. And much of the aslogarists that are gonna be coming internally, and the postcoms and intercoms that are just presented at that kind of the capilloc. Keep it tuned. Guys, at this point here, we are at the main stage, whereby much of the electricity now branched, getting inside to Nyabuanse a little bit. And this is where the interconnection, talk about the branching of the main electricity, because it's coming from the downer path and just exiting to Sirare line, talk about to across about to Tanzania. So because even Tanzanians, they always buy electricity from Kenya, so the main line that's just passing, it's this kind of the line here that's going up to Tanzania. So at this kind of the spot here, it cut it across until the transformer. It's only in Nyabuanse whereby we have one big transformer that was being used. You understand, sometimes much of the people say that, okay, a transformer can only withstand a mileage of only about 600 meters, but this one is a little bit bigger to consumers, and much of the people who are going to be consuming such kind of electricity, there are so many, because of talk about the kiosks, talk about hotels and much more, talk about the machines, the milling machines, and also everybody has its own utility that you're going to be using such electricity too. And that is how we talk about it. We are still tracing it to understand how is it moving, from which kind of the pathway, from which estatement level, and how it got up to when it was just blocked not to get onto that kind of the village. And what's really popping out, because when I spoke to the area MCA, the member of county assembly, he said that talk about the transformer is coming, but before the transformer could be coming, the electricity was there, because during the party at Marwa, we were using electricity from Nyabuanse, and which kind of the effervescence came and cut it across, because there's no electricity in that kind of the village up to this kind of the time. So we're going to be talking about, it's going to be like a village report that we're going to be coming out at this kind of a statement to understand how this kind of the things are just running from which and each following moment as this kind of the level. Is it that they are just talking about is a political stuff, or how is it? Because much of the calls have been done, much of the talks have been done from each the management of the electricity people. Talk about the managers of the electricity, which so is called Kenya Power, which is Kenya Power is Kenya Power, which is you can understand the electricity people who are always making sure that you are getting electricity into your own area. Talk about the last mileage was brought with one of the president after the new constitution in Kenya in 2010, whereby every school was to have electricity at that kind of the time, because the president allowed and said that every school should have an electricity, because during that time they started bringing something called a new curriculum vitae of getting to the school's computers, and you cannot operate some of the computers if you don't have electricity. So that's why you saw the last marriage now came from Nyabuanse until it got onto Ayamaro. I don't know if that kind of the village of Ayamaro, did they challenge the people that, okay, we're going to be having a school here, or how was it until it reached at that kind of the point? But to that kind of the moment, you can say that it's the way of handling much of the matters, and we're going to be getting and driving onto it to understand how did it reach there and why is it not there until Ayamaro decided to talk about you're going to be buying some of the solar system. It's going to be working for most of the people, or it's going to be not working at that kind of the point. And right now, where is that transformer going to be put? If it's going to be put at that kind of the time, how are the beneficiary? Who are the beneficiary of that kind of the transformer? How is it going to be working, and who going to be controlling it? Because everybody's talking about if you want a transformer, just have 2.1 million that Ayamaro was allowed to give out, so it can just be given a transformer inside the zone of the compound. And that kind of the transformer, will it be out, or how will it be occurring? So from this kind of the time, you can just sense and talk about this is the tracing codes, where you can just understand how the electricity was being driven from Nyabuhanse until the villa. Was it a long marriage? Was it a long way? And how did it reach there until Nyabuhanse transformer busted, and it took them like 2 months before they could come to replace it at that kind of the time? That is what we're going to be handling at this kind of the moment, and understanding how has it been. And right now, whenever we're going to be coming, have the people been registered to make sure they're going to be getting that kind of talk about the last marriage electricity. We're going to be diving into it as we just accelerate from this Nyabuhanse zone, so as we can just get inside to understand who is behind it. Is it a political stability? Is it a political issue about electricity until Ayamaro decided to buy the solar system? So we can just dive into it, understand also what's going to be popping out, because we are on it. The village report is going to be coming at this kind of the essence. There's no much of the fearing. Here we're going to be presenting it the way it is, because everybody has to understand what's really failing behind the level and behind the community. Keep it tuned. Let's dive into it, still on it. Guys, back to the root. Still, we are recovering to understand how the movement of electricity is just moving. Look at this kind of the transformer. It's just at this kind of the spot here. This kind of the transformer, it is approximately 850 meters to Ayamaro Villa. I'm using Ayamaro Villa because it's strategically located, and much of the people can trace that kind of the villa where it is to understand that kind of the village, because he is amongst the center of that village. So when we are using it, you can even trace it using the GPS, because that villa is still locatable whenever you're going to be googling at the talk about the GPS, and you can get much of the hint about it. This kind of the transformer, it has been recently put here, and I think it was in 2024 when we came, and he was the organizer. And from that kind of the point, it's when much of the things had been so hard, talking about why am I not having electricity, because talk about the Nyabuhanse transformer had busted at that kind of the time, and there was no electricity in Nyabuhanse, and also here there was no electricity into this kind of the village. Talk about this is just a project. Talk about one of the sponsorship of the project here that we're going to be having much of the people from abroad coming to surprise much of the things here. Talk about upgrading and developing this kind of the community, because it's called a CCF child. It's called a child fund. It's a child fund that is just at this kind of the area. So it was brought here due to the child fund program of the people who are just sponsoring this kind of the institution here. That's why it was put here, and the first electricity was passing to this kind of the institution. It's called Courier of Youth. It's a child fund program here, and from that point we had to come and rectify it whenever Ayamaro was pressing each and every kind of the time, so as this kind of the transformer could be put here, because it's 850 meters to Ayamaro Villa, and also from Nyabuhanse to Ayamaro Villa it's approximately 1.4 kilometers, and that is the point that they said that that one of Nyabuhanse, it will have long miles, and it will not surprise from Nyabuhanse until to the villa. And that's why during the party there was a bigger system, there was a very big equipment that were using more electricity in terms of welding and also music instruments that were placed there that time, talk about one drop was there, music was roaming like Safari Rally. So at that kind of the point, this transformer was no longer available. So when the Kenya Power got that kind of the hint that everybody was complaining, including Nyabuhanse, everybody was complaining. Why? Oh, it's only Marwa who has brought this kind, who has made this kind of the transformer to burst and whatever. So electricity was just not there in Nyabuhanse, and much of the people pinpointed the fingers and pointed the fingers to Marwa because they said that he's the one who is consuming a lot of electricity and is in a far area that is not concerned about a transformer can reach there, because that was a very large mile expected for a transformer to get there. So at that point, he had to make sure that he cannot again rely from Nyabuhanse. So they had to make sure that they are making an appointment to the Kenya Power so they can just get electricity coming from this kind of the spot. And that is how this kind of the transformer came. But regardless of this kind of transformer, they made much of the talks and whatever. They had to put some money, and even including Marwa was just going there with Rocio to talk about, hey, please, people of the managers, whatever, so they can just get it, including he was ever calling to this kind of the people, talk about the area MP, which is the member of the parliament of this one, and it said, the transformer, you just arrange yourselves, make sure that you're going to be having a group and a certain names and IDs written there, so as you could be claiming for a transformer. If you are more than 32 people, you can claim for a transformer. But that village, it's exceeding 100 people. But that's why this kind of the transformer was put here. And Marwa's hope was that this transformer, it will reach his own villa, because it's the one which is very near compared to Nyabuhanse transformer. And do you understand that how the connection from Nyabuhanse was, whenever this transformer was having a problem before it was changed, because much of the people are having some of the small interroutes, talk about maybe the electricity is just driven by the channels down and whatever. You understand how the hiking and following such kind of the channel is, and that's why this kind of transformer sometimes going to be having a little bit of the problem. So at that point, we can talk about he claimed it to be here so he can just get it, but did it reach? Let's get to the grassroots still, because we are on the way to understand how is it and why. And much of the people, when they're complaining about A, B, C, D, is it political? We're going to be understanding it from this kind of the COSPAM coming right now, still diving into it, because we are on the route. This is the cabling system that was turning round, and we're going to be getting to that cable and understanding how it's driven up to where the villa was. Keep it locked. Guys, after all the movement, talk about all the walkings, talk about the lean, it's here for the Kenya Power, talk about the electricity line, it's just passing through here. And when we have just reached here, this kind of the pole at this moment here, this is a 600 meters from the main transformer. Talk about the one that is a child funds a program there. This is where the 600 meters is, and this is where it has to reach, and that's why you can see this kind of the pole, how different it is, and it is just maintained with the talk about the organization of the Kenya Power to make sure that this is the last mile that it has reached, because from here now it will be exceeding and bringing much of the baggness, or talk about bringing much of the hardship to that kind of the transformer, and it will bring much of the problems. Talk about the leakage of the oil, talk about maybe power on surge, maybe uncontrollable power supply. Sometimes power can come and it can just cut because they will just be exceeding the number and the meters or the mileage that is trying, or it has to be covered at that kind of the spot. So this is the last mile that where this kind of the small transformer could reach. But you can understand the electricity was coming from Nyabuhanse still, that was passing through here before the transformer was put here. And when it was passing through this kind of the stuffs here, every kind of this place, and now you can imagine traveling from 1.4 kilometers until the villa, and this is just 600 whenever it has reached here. So that's where much of the problem starts. And when I talk about that's where the problem starts, I was here when the Kenya Power people came, when they were having much of the talk, and when the transformer was put where I'm coming from, and when that transformer was placed there, because I was there, Gakia was there during that time to make sure that we are maintaining that road, because Marwa called Gintu and called me and called Gake and talked about, I am in Nairobi. Make sure that you are going to the street and go back to the road and make sure that you are mobilizing much of the people there and pay them 200 Kenya shillings each to make sure that they are leveling that kind of an area. Whenever that kind of the Kenya Power vehicle is coming, because you understand it has its own crane, so as they can just put and just get it and put it there, the transformer, because it doesn't require much of the people or people's power to apply it or get it to the top of the tree. You can understand that during that time, he knew that when that transformer will be placed there, this electricity will just run up to his own home. But before they could just, even if they fixed it, they never put electricity to come out. What did they do? They came for a survey. And that survey, I was in that survey, me and Marwa, and also much of the people who were there to make sure that we are checking what's really happening. So they came and said that this tree was placed here with the Kenya Power organization on itself, talking about this is a 600 miles that are just required, 600 meters that is just required for that small transformer to get this electricity. But it was passing from this tree here until the other tree at this kind of the avocado tree, and we can just reach there so you can just see what I'm talking about, because electricity now was bypassing. Now it was coming from 600 meters at that spot, and it was brought to 700 meters here. And how did it go? And that's why I'm just getting myself to understand how everything is just running. Matiko, mambo safi. So the 600 meters, it's just at Matiko's home. And when I talk about there is a problem between Matiko and Marwa, you can now start getting it from this electricity. So when it reached there, it came to this kind of the pole. You can just see on yourselves. These wires are cut. You can see. They're just cut. So there's nothing, it's just at this kind of the stuff. So they came and cut this electricity. It was going to Mogesi's home, and it was just dropping to this kind of the simple families that they were here to make sure that they could be getting that electricity, and they were just using it, utilizing it more properly. But the defect that was there, it's whereby this electricity from this pole, it was being transferred again using the local trees. They could cut local trees and they could just dry them and apply oil, then insert somewhere and call a civilian, a person who knows electrification, and they could come and put the electrical things and wires to their own homes, which made the organization, talk about the Kenya Power organization, to feel like it's being hijacked. So at that point, it came and cut the wires from the top of that tree and connecting to that kind of a tree down there that could just be maneuvering all around to get electricity in that kind of the village, because it was coming from there to access to the Congrats dad at this far end. That's why we are just heading to understand the electrical problem, because when it reached at Matiko's home, you understand this kind of the home, and he said that he cannot, because he was told, and he was told at that kind of the moment, if he allow anybody to pick electricity from here, they will come and terminate electricity from his home and get it to the person who is intended, if it's done illegally without the notification of the Kenya Power organization. So at that point, you can get my point clear as we're just moving from one point to another. Because much of the people talk about, oh, it's a hate because of whatever. And when Marwa complained that, oh, this electricity, it can reach, please, Kenya Power, please, please, please. But he was told, no. The whatever you can just do from this kind of the spot is only you buy a transformer and the main line to be created from Nyabuhanse until your position, and we put there a transformer so as it will be now for the last mileage. But he decided, he was told 2.1 million, and at that point he never brought that kind of a discussion to the people who are around here, because Mr. Matiko refused. I cannot give out electricity if I'm not told, because they wanted to do it in a corner narration. Talk about whenever this kind of the organization went, Amaro came back with much of the local electricians, and they started to put electricity from Mr. Matiko, whereby he denied and said that I'll call the organization, and told them that because they left it me, and he used a lot of money to bring it into his home because he brought it from very far points. So at that point, I cannot talk about I risk my money so as you can just get because you have money. It can never happen. So that's why you see much of the pogroms and intercoms between Matiko and talk about the Congrats Dad family, because they were using the same electricity at this kind of the rate, because electricity was passing through this site and it was coming inside Marwa's home. During that time, the party had to get off, so the party was no longer available. So I'm getting you to the real main. Then at that point, and I can say it and I can mention it, during that time when they were doing the survey, and you understand that even Marwa was not more punctual at that moment. Mama Ann was having a tree. Talk about a tree was inside here that was driven Congrats Dads with electricity, and there was another tree here, and I can pinpoint it direct. There was a tree here at Mama Ann's home. That tree, it had been eaten with safari ants, and it was leaning, and it was so scary during the party. If you saw much of the videos, that kind of the tree, it was just holded with the wires that was passing for electricity, and it had been broken down, so it was about to fall down. It was risky, and that electricity was coming from there. It had to come to Mama Ann's because the tree was broken, and the tree was the manual trees that you can cut a manual tree and apply oil and get down. So that is where the trespassing started from, and they talked about no, it can never be applicable. And to the real fact, still there's wires here. I can just show you where now Marwa line started from, because at this point, look at this electricity tree here. So these wires, they're now going to the villa, and others are just joining here. Because when I say that that's how it was, let me get and show you which kind of the trees are we talking about, because much of the people can talk about which kind of the local trees Gintu are you talking about. I can get in without much of the confusion here, so I can just show you something, and you have to get it very clearly. Let me show you the tree I'm talking about. This is the tree I'm talking about. It was put for electricity. This is the tree. You can assume, look at this. This was the tree that we used as electricity. Look at how it's tied. Look at how short it is. And this was a pole that was put with manual operated people, so that they can drive much of electricity from here to Ayamaro Villa. So when I'm giving you this kind of the pinpointment, you have to get it very clearly, because we are not guessing when we talk about why is people complaining that we're going to be having money. Is it because of a political? No, it's nothing like political. It's the stupidity of much of the people. So from here, this tree, it was the main tree that was placed here from here to Ayamaro Villa. And do you understand that Amaro himself said that he has used 250,000 to drive this electricity from here to create a line from here to the villa? We are on it, to understand, because it's in a straight panel passing through each and every kind of the YouTuber homes to understand that they're going to be getting electricity or not. So from this pinpointment, that's where now things are getting crazy, because Ayamaro asked it at the first spot that I ever went to the talk about organization. I asked them, please, can you bring me electricity? They came with their own trucks, and much. Kenya is corrupt at that kind of the point. Marwa was having a good heart, talking about I want electricity to pass, because if it's passing from that far end, the homes that are attached in each and every kind of the spot could get electricity. That one we don't have to lie. So this kind of the pole still they're here, and even they were put this kind of the sticker, talk about PME, because it's just the main talk about line that was created here with the electrical people, talk about the organization on itself. And he used 250,000 to drive this electricity where? To the villa. And that is how it was. But what made it not to reach here is because it's far away from Matiko's home. You have to understand it, because Matiko's home is 600 already. that 600 is where that transformer has to reach. But Marwa was complaining, no, I want this electricity to reach my home because it's just here. I have a line created here. But much of the people, how they don't understand, don't talk about you did actual science. That is not a problem. The problem is, do you understand the strategy? The next tree, it's here in Uncle Mo's home, and it has been used because it was being used. You can see a dropping cable, it's there, and it has been used to and Uncle Mo was using it also to make sure that everything is running, because that is the tree inside Uncle Mo's home. Because I said it was passing and helping much of the people, because if it was passing through your home, you could just do something called a dropping cable only, which was being used there to make sure that you can get electricity. So from that point, you can understand that electricity is coming from so far distance, from Nyabohansa, 1.4 kilometers to reach to Marwa. And when the transformer got burnt and it just spoiled, and no electricity was in Nyabohansa for 2 months, people complained that Marwa is the one who is consuming, and it's in a far end. And how did it reach here? It's because of the connection and money. So you have to understand that kind of a strategy. So at this point, it came to this kind of the spot. It went to Mayuguno. That's how it is. That's the Mayuguno's place. And this kind of the tree, it dropped at this kind of the spot. And because I told you that it's just dropping cables, so it could be more effective that this kind of the people, there are so many. Talk about right now, there's a home here, there's a home to this kind of the side. There are so many homes that rely on this electricity, but it is coming from far. So much of the people can complain that, oh, electricity is coming, oh, we have some of the poles here, maybe the wires are here, but where is the electricity coming from? It's very, very far spot. So at this point, you can pinpoint that there was a very big problem whenever it comes to electrification at this kind of the moment, because this is another tree, so a little bit crazy, and it's still persisting with much of how it is. But the problem is they don't have some supportive wires that could be supporting them to as it cannot have much of the contemplement, so as they can just be working properly. So at that square, you can understand that there was a little bit of a failure, because right now here some of the cables are still lying down. What is the main aim? Because electricity was coming, and these are just the cables here. They're just lying down at this square to make sure that things are not working properly. You can see the wires there, and they're just at that kind of the spot to make sure that no electricity right now is coming here, because even there's a pole that is down. So how could it be? And you can answer the question very simply. And when you hear some of Mambo, when you hear much of the people talking about, oh, electricity could be there, but the problem is A, B, C, D. Let me show you where the pole is. This is a internet cable. This is the electrical cables here. You can see them. These are a tree. Talk about a pole has just slapped down here. And you can understand it has been spoiled using the anti-safari ants here. So this is the pole. It has been cut, or it just fall down because of its owner. A way of talking about it has rot and it has fallen down. So when we talk about that is a little bit of the problems that are encountered up to this kind of the spot. We have reached where electricity was coming. So when we come to this kind of the spot, I'm going to be saying this. This village has a lot of people. Talk about more than 100 families here, and that spot we can say about is this kind of the community could be more favorable if they could have gotten their own transformer. So they cannot rely and talk about, oh, much of the people have made it, not me to get it. Marhaba, mukopoa. Aya, mnyamaze. Aya, shh. Nikimaliza tuongea, si ndio? Haya. So guys, at this point I can now pinpoint and talk about it's in a way that much of the people have to understand that how is the strategy and how is everything moving from one place, from one pathway, until you exit to each and every department. So this portfolio I can talk about is when electricity was being placed here, you understand that you can just use money for you to get it. But when that they said that you can create your own, and we can just create one of the line that you can get electricity onto your home, they said that it's too expensive, including they had to do a contribution that they could buy much of the solar system, including understanding that Amaro himself told me that this kind of the solar system, they're going to be expanding it so they can sell electricity to solar electricity to much of the villagers here. And why is it coming that way? Because he has been contributed to buy it. Why is he showing that again he had to make the solar system and again disburse much of the electricity to various spots, various homes at this kind of the Esquire? It's something that much of the people should use common Obrangata, that this village, they could have written much of the names. I asked it from the MCA, talk about the member of talk about the member of the county assembly, and I asked him, why is Guitacho? This is the area I said Guitacho is called, and why is it not having electricity? Because there are so many homes, including YouTubers, they are constructing. There are so many plots here have been bought with different people, different categories of people, and they're just living. And much of the people come and put there a small section, and still there is bars to make sure that everything is going to be coming out. So at that pinpointment, you can say that it's in a way of understanding that even Amaro, I was there when he called the area MP. I was there. You can take it to the bank. He asked that, okay, hey, the area MP, please, why I'm not having electricity? I've worked, they're talking about, and they took it as a political. Because when we said that Amaro is not having electricity and it has been cut because of spoiling those kind of the transformers, he said that it is political. And he saw it. The transformers were getting burnt. And he was having so many machines here that were operating. And to operate with such kind of the transformer from Nyabwase, 1.4 kilometers, it was very, very far. So he had to do something better to make sure that he's buying a transformer and be placed here. So what is making things to be harder is whereby much of the people are saying that this kind of the company is saying that this transformer that you'll buy and put it at a position, it's going to be a little bit of a headache. Why is it? That transformer, it will not be yours, but it will supplement. But the transformer will be at your own compound, but it will supplement. You will get maybe, they're calling it a three-way line or whatever they're going to be calling it, a three-phase or whatever, two-phase and whatever, and you're gonna not be handling it alone. Other people will be having electricity from one position to another, which is gonna be a little bit difficult for him to say that I'm the one who has bought this kind of the transformer that will be helping us to move forward from this pathway to another. So which brought a little bit of a headache at that kind of the time, and they had to cut it. So let me say this one. When we were handling this kind of the electricity problem, and I was there as among us the people who are called so as can just handle this kind of electricity problem, I was there. And when we reached at Mr. Matik was there, they started arguing that, oh, this kind of electricity is going to be, it cannot go exceeding 600 meters, but he was complaining so hard. Even he took them to come and see if his own meters are reading on his name. But the meters that he's using still, they were not meant for his name. He was already hooked up with the engineer who was there. He can take it to the bank because they are there. Two of them, the first one, it got burnt. The second one, it's because you can understand, how can a meter be burnt? It's because of power on surge, or there's I talk about a problem with the line, talk about the electricity problem. So that is the point that much of the people can place it and show and understand that that is the mambo. Yuko. So that's the point. You can understand that that is how the things are moving from one pathway to another. At that statement, we can understand ourselves and bless it and place it to whatever we want to be placing it. So at this rate, you can understand how things are running. Now you can understand how is the problem is coming, and when we have ever been talking about we're going to be having electricity coming to this kind of a zone, talk about a new transformer going to be coming, it's going to be helping the whole village. But if you are a person who has a hike and you can talk about how things going to be happening, he could be one of the members who could be pressing and talking about we want electricity to the whole village, not at your own beneficial. That will be so fantastic at that kind of the Kariba, and you can talk about that is is the best way for us to handle such kind of the matters. But don't talk about it's only you have to benefit. What about others? And if you say about what about others, because there are so many families that cannot raise it. Not everybody is capable of raising such kind of the money. Not everybody is capable of getting the money you are getting. Not everybody is capable of getting talk about the donations the way you're going to be getting. So at times use the talk about the way you are, the way you're going to be, because you are a celebrity, to help other people struggle and make it happen. At that point we can say that it's one of the best way for us to move and make it happen, because we are we and we shall be we when we're going to be making it and coming out more focused at this kind of environment. So right now it's because this village is still under the night shades. Talk about the night is prevailing in a way that you can understand and not understand. Is this a village at night? It's only Marwa's lighting system that is preventing and making things to happen here. But that is the local things that you can talk about. It's something which is so meticulous and we can handle it as far as everything is in concern. But electricity problem, it's going to be solved, because talk about this is Witacho's village, and we're going to be having like a transformer that's going to be coming to that kind of the zone, and we're going to be supplying the whole of this kind of the village with electricity. We're going to be checking about, is he going to be again getting the electricity, or how is it going to be? Because the area MC talked about there are 8 transformers that are going to be brought into this kind of the village, and they're going to be getting electricity as soon as possible, and new lines going to be created, because this one that was created here, even the company itself said that no, this kind of the electricity, it is not onto the system. It's not the line that has been created with the system, so it cannot be used with any kind of electrical power because it's not put in the system. So it means that Marwa also has been hijacked at a point that you can say that it's something that you can just create and understand, because if it has reached here, something is special. Something can just be created at this kind of the point, and we can handle it in a very diverseful manner. So if it's going to be coming, it's going to be so useful, and it's going to be holding, and it's going to be helping much of the people in the society to equip them, come out and have light. Electricity is light. And if you have light, you can study, you can make things happen, because tomorrow is another day. That's what we always talk about, and we have to be locked and keep it tuned, because much of this is going to be coming to you live. We have traced until where much of the people are complaining. Is there any kind of the complaint again? No, there's no much of the complaint, and that is how it has been driven. But the craziest thing is, don't put political stabilities or political issues into this kind of the circus, because it's not part of the village how it's going to be moving from one position to another, because we are tracing it from where it has been a problem until where it is. Because when the party was headed, so when the party was being headed, we can talk about much of the people say that, oh, it's because of the political. Much of the people are fed with a lot of food. Maybe people are eating east to west. That's very fantastic, because it was one of the things that could bring much of the harmony and unity during that time. Talk about the YouTube platform and much ever. But much of the people started talking about, oh, it's because of the political. Maybe they're thinking about you're going to be picking everything. No, it was not meant into such kind of a way. But we can understand it and handle it more carefully and more diversifully, and understand that everything is moving so good at this kind of the moment. So keep it tuned, keep it locked, as we're going to be checking back to much of the things, how they're going to be coming from each and every kind of the village, and understand we have to protect them. And even if it's development, let us make it happen, because development is meant for everybody. And if development is meant for everybody, we have to understand it. And this, if it's development, let us make it happen, because we are we, and we're going to be making development coming so meticulous. At this point, keep it tuned, keep it locked. Exactly. Pinpointment, point second. Let's get it to the home, take it to the bank. Keep it tuned. Next time, next video dropping up.